What up, people? Welcome to Game Over Entertainment. And this week on The Walking Dead Wednesday, I'm bringing you guys another deleted sequences and deleted choices from season 1 this time. I had a lot of fun talking about them from season 2, and I found some more from season 1 that are quite interesting, okay? I think the addition of some of these could have possibly made season 1 even better. And I know that's hard to believe because season 1 was amazing. And if you guys want to follow along with me, the link is also in the description of the website where I'm getting these from. I'm about to go in order from episode 1 to episode 5 right now. So check out the description if you want to follow along or see this for yourself. And also in the description below, I have links to playlists of unused audio in The Walking Dead season 1. There is a ton of it, and they give hint to a lot of scenes and a lot of stuff that's supposed to happen but never came down. But let's go ahead and get into it. So I'm going to take you guys back to Walking Dead Season 1, Episode 1, A New Day. Okay, so it says here, Doug once had his own subquest in early development, in which Lee had to knock the pole onto his brother, while Doug attracted the walkers away with Kenny's truck. Lee had to cut the electricity before cutting the pole with a fire axe. Now that scene, it would have fit kind of well in there, just Doug being a little more active and helping you distract the walkers and stuff like that. That'd been cool. But you probably would have missed out on the element that he's a smart guy that knows how to use electronic devices very well. So they went that route as opposed to maybe the traditional sense he's just a normal guy who just drove his truck around to do that. So they made Doug a little more specialized in his skill set, I think, by having the remote thing go down. Next it says, originally you can choose who to come with you to save Irene, the girl at the motel who was bitten. You could leave her completely. Lee could choose only Carly to come with him, only Glenn, or both, or neither. If Lee went alone or only with Glenn, he would borrow Carly's Glock. Leaving Irene makes Glenn upset with Lee and tries to convince him that they should go save the girl as well as check for supplies. You know, this would have added a little more choice to it and could have made this a little darker, where Lee is like, you know, no, we're not going to save this girl, agreeing with Carly's side of things, like, it's too dangerous, we're going to get the hell out of here. So just not having that whole scene go down whatsoever. And I guess we would have came back to the motel later and found a walker inside that room, and we could have had another scene later on, maybe in episode 2, where we actually dealt with her, because we probably went in that room eventually and then finding her. And last for episode 1, Lee had to find a hammer and a pair of nails while walkers were invading the pharmacy at the scene toward the end when everything's getting kind of hectic. Hammering windows and doors to buy the group some time, Lee had to go to both Carly and Doug, assisting them with the hammer while they held the window door. Now, no doubt boarding up those windows and stuff definitely would have helped keep the walkers out. But would they have stayed alive long enough for Lee to find the hammer and nails? I'm not sure how that would have worked out. Moving on to episode 2, Starve for Help. So there are a lot of deleted scenes from this one and choices that we possibly could have had. Let me go ahead and get into this, man. Stuff that didn't make the final cut. When Lee first meets Ben and David Parker, his teacher, there is a completely different scene as either Lee, Kenny, or Mark had to help Ben shoot the walkers, while one of the three cut off Mr. Parker's leg. If Mr. Parker was left behind, Lee could have had the option of leaving Ben as well or take him with you. If this option was made, then Mark wouldn't die in the bandit raid in St. John's Dairy, Mr. Parker taking his role of being Dinner. Okay. This right here is pretty confusing. I'm trying to figure out what they're saying here, but this is some game-changing decisions right here. This would have changed a lot of the game for The Walking Dead season 1 right here. Not having been in the story number 1, that would be a huge change. Having Mr. Parker, the teacher, die instead of Mark in the St. John Dairy thing would have been radical. But it's that the thought is pretty jumbled up, because some things don't make sense right here too. But moving on to the next one, Lee and the group could choose to bring gas or not. If Lee said no, the Andy would come back with some food every day until the group said yes. Ben would stay behind due to the traumas. Kenny replacing his role enjoying the trip to the dairy. Lily was more acceptable to the newest member, teaching him the basics. Okay, so initially when I first played The Walking Dead season 1 in this episode, I said no. I said no, we're not doing that. But then the group kind of forced me to say yes and go along with the plan. So it looked like there was an option to say no, and they would have came back every day. I wonder how many times you could have went through that, and how many different kind of scenes would have saw of this happening. And Ben staying behind instead of Kenny, it wouldn't have made a huge difference, because Kenny probably went back and told the group instead of Ben and Carly, or Ben and Doug. So it wouldn't have made a big difference there. There's a dream sequence present in the game data. Whoever you didn't save, Doug Carly, came back to haunt Lee in his dream, asking why they weren't saved, and that Clementine will die because of his actions. Mention of Lee's ex-wife Sam and the Senator Hines is there as well. They ended with, "Do you think you can save me this time?" What? This is a creepy ass dream, number one. Being haunted by Doug's because I didn't save him? Well, that'd been, ooh. That would have been kind of haunting, especially if he was like all chewed up when you saw him in the dream and stuff. And he's talking about, and then my wife is mentioned, and the senator, more exposition about who Lee's wife really was and stuff. Wow, that'd been pretty character building right there. Whoa. But episode 2 was really long already. Adding all this stuff that I'm naming right now would have made it even longer. So I see why they had to take some things out, but man, that'd been crazy to see right there. I want to see that. Next, when the group arrived at the farm, the group could either take the biscuits or leave. Refusing them apparently results in a hilarious dialogue between Mark, Carly, Doug. Lee could also freely leave the farm and back to the motor inn if desired. I don't really know how that would have played out. That must have been in the early designs, because it doesn't really fit along with the rest of the story. Like, if Lee would have went back to the motor inn, that would be interesting, because that means Mark would have stayed there by himself. Are you telling me that? So we would have came back with Mark, looking for Mark, and he would have been already upstairs. She's like, oh, he got hurt, he'll be fine. And I guess we would have found out later that he was actually on the dinner table later, but Lee would have no recognition of how he got injured or what happened. A lot of this stuff is really game changing, man. There says there was more to Jolene. Depending on Lee's choice, she could mention another bandit called Paul and her daughter Danielle. Okay, just a reference to some other unknown characters. Their dinner sequence was much larger, as the unused subquest occurred where Lee had to cut Clementine's food or let Lily or Kenny do it. Lee could also choose to add more salt or pepper to Clementine's plate to let the two above do it. There were several retakes of a prayer, and Lee at this point had found out that Mark or David was dinner. It's just a little bit more to the scene where Lee cutting up Clementine's food, and then I guess while they are praying, while Lee says he has to go to the restroom, that's when he goes upstairs and finds it out. Praying over their food. God bless this meal. Oh no. Oh no. No. Larry's death was much sadder as he was taking his dying breath. He apologized to Lily for not being able to protect her and her mother. That definitely would have been kind of sad, but it kind of would have taken away from the scene a little bit. Whether he's alive or not after having that heart attack. Him saying those type of final words would give us like more concrete, like, oh yeah, he's gone, it's fine, he said his last words. But not having him actually have closure like that was, I think, a better way to go, because it made the scene a little bit more questionable. There's an unused audio clip where Brenda tells Lee about her husband's fate. She says that a bunch of walkers got into the house somehow and attacked Terry, thus killing Terry. The addition of this scene, I think, could have been a good part, because we already saw that the back door, the way out of St. John's house from the downstairs, was boarded up. Like, you couldn't get past this area right there. but probably because the walkers broke in, killed their dad, and that's why they decided to board it up. And also maybe a way to keep people in, people who are trapped inside this house being dissected like food, keep them trapped too. So it serves multiple purposes. Keep walkers out, keep the people or their meals inside. Originally, the group was scattered at first after the revelation of cannibalism. Lee found Kenny first, who was shot beforehand, and then Lily before trying to rescue Doug and Katja. So everybody was split up in different areas, and Lee had to go around and rescue them individually, probably with Clementine by his side. It could have been interesting, It was alright the way it was. It says here that Mark Darren, who is a game designer, stated in an interview that Lee originally was supposed to move stall to stall while avoiding detection by Danny St. John, and Lee would have had to place the bear trap to where Danny would be caught. So Lee actually using strategy to, stop Danny this way. I think that could have been a cool scene as opposed to Danny just surprising Lee with his gun. But I gotta admit, that scene had me shocked. I actually died the first time. So as far as jump scares go, it served that purpose. But it wasn't the smartest thing to do, because Danny could just shot him right there in the head and it'd been game over immediately. So, from a game perspective, it was good, but from a logical perspective, that was not a good situation. Two more things here. Okay, guys, it's almost done with episode 2. It's a lot. Originally, the group did not find a station wagon. The food was in the barn. After Doug, Carly, and Ben saved Lee and the others, and after Andy's fight, they took all the boxes and went back to the motor inn. The supply room was replaced with a bloody tub, metallic equipment, and jars containing organs instead. So, would you take any food inside of that barn? I don't know. I don't think I would have, man. Seeing where we already saw where our meal that night came from. And last deleted thing from episode 2 here. After the survivors took the food, you can go around asking everyone how they felt about today's events in the motor inn. If Mr. Parker was left behind, but taking Ben, he'd tell that it was a horrible fate for his teacher as he was a good man. So this is going off of the Mr. Parker thing being the dinner instead of Mark. But it'd been kind of cool to talk to everybody. I really did want to talk to everybody about what kind of went down in St. John's Dairy, just to see how they were mentally and stuff. I did want to do that, so having this scene could have been awesome. Okay, on to episode 3, The Long Road Ahead. Lee had to save each individual as the group was scattered all over the motor inn. Rather than saving Doug, Carly, and Ben, then saving Clementine, Katja, and Duck from the vicious bandit attack. So just instead of saving these characters in clumps, right side, left side, they had to go through each and every one of them. I actually prefer that because that gun sequence was horrible. Okay, Telltale's not known for that gunplay, that's for sure. Ben was supposed to talk about his family on the train, but it was scrapped for this episode and added in No Time Left. Ben actually talking about his family this early on in episode 3, I don't think would have had as much as an impact as it did in episode 5, because he was already getting battered down, being wished to die by Kenny, and him actually mentioning that and having that be an emotional scene. He actually built up some kind of respect from Kenny, and Kenny could actually see where he's coming from, and that wouldn't have the same kind of impact that it did if it appeared this early on in episode 3. Jolene was going to make a return via flashback, but was scrapped for unknown reasons. Her lines are in audio clips. Interesting enough, there are screams and cries of her begging for help, possibly rape, as she implies in the camcorder. You rapist mother in the final version. I don't know where they're getting at right here. Oh, okay, I see. I guess we were supposed to look at the camcorder or something. I really don't know how this is supposed to play out right here, so I'm not too sure about that. And this one here is actually my theory, but I think that Doug was supposed to live a little bit longer in episode 3, because if you look at the title art for episode 3 in the season 1 menu, you see Doug in the train riding shotgun, looking happy as hell. In the original storyline, Doug dies before that scene ever happens, so maybe something else was planned when they were making this. And that wraps up episode 3. So moving on to episode 4, Around Every Corner. What deleted scenes do we have here? Ben had the option of killing Five-O by gunshot, and an unfinished animation where he stomps on the boy. Really, Ben? Okay, that sounds like a Ben move. Okay, so Five-O, if you guys remember, he is the little boy who was in the attic, all shriveled up, really nothing left to him. He was a walker, and I guess Ben, maybe he came up there after Kenny and Lee were up there. He just shot him in the head and stomped him. Probably think he did a very good job. Probably pissing off Kenny even more because the boy reminded him of Doug in that way, and just killed him so ruthlessly like that. Could have been worse for him instead of better as far as his relationship with Kenny. Ben also had an unused wish to die. He asked Lee to drop him because he and Kenny wants to, because he too believes that he is quoting this line, "A fuck up for everyone." There's unused audio where he thanks Lee for dropping him before getting devoured by walkers. Oh man, that'd be kind of creepy. Him on the ground or him falling, "Thank you, Lee, for dropping me," you know, some shit like that. Are you serious? But yeah, we didn't really have to do with that. We got to see for what it was. So there's also some extra dialogue that went unused between Clementine and Lee if he chooses to drop Ben. Clementine seeing Ben as one of her closest friends and seeing that Ben only never thought of himself, only the group. That's how I guess Ben is in Clementine's mind, and I guess there was some kind of conversation where she was really displeased with Lee for what his actions were. The scene with the tapes with the pregnant woman Anna Courier and Dr. Logan had a slightly bigger role. Now, if you guys remember, Dr. Courier told Anna that she had to get rid of her baby, and she in turn attacked the doctor. It says Dr. Logan tried to get Anna Courier out of Crawford, but was killed in the process, possibly by Crawford. But this was scrapped when Molly was implemented. So initially, Molly was not scheduled to be in episode 4. The character was actually made later on in the development cycle. So not having Molly involved, this is how this scene would have went down. Definitely not a fan of this one because Molly was amazing. I mean, a great survivor and taught us some new techniques about how to attract walkers using sound. And last for episode 4, there was a sub-quest where you can lead Vernon to the mansion and your group to Crawford via the sewer. They were most likely scrapped due to time constraints. So instead of just having the scenes phase from, you know, Crawford's little area to the mansion, and from the mansion on to attack the Crawford property, you know, they would have like sequences where we're walking through the tunnel, maybe killing a walker or two, and having some conversation with our characters on those scenes. So I always want more stuff like that in my episodes. So this would have been awesome to have in there and find out more about, you know, maybe some more about Vernon, what the hell he was thinking, because this dude did steal our boat, and it was really not hinted at all that he had any like reason to steal the boat before we actually saw him actually do it. So maybe we could have learned some hints that, hey, he wants to get out of the town, he wants to get away and stuff like that. That could have been revealed in those sequences, talking to Vernon more. And last, the season finale, episode 5, No Time Left. There's an unused sequence where Lee and whoever came to Clementine with him had to navigate through the sewer fighting walkers. So we're fighting walkers to get back to Vernon's little stronghold and everything else. I agree. Like I said, I would like these kind of sequences. It just make episode 5 just a little more fulfilling and a little bit longer. This one's a big surprise for me. Lily was slated to appear in this episode. It says here that Gavin Hammond, the voice of Kenny, revealed that a scene was planned in which Lily would appear in No Time Left with the RV again after her original departure, but it was never made and it was scrapped. What? So Lily appearing in the season finale right here, possibly playing the role of antagonist, because I don't see any other reason why she would follow Lee and the group all the way down to Savannah. I don't think it would be pure coincidence that we all ended up in the same spot. So Lily being there will probably be for revenge, and that would be pretty crazy right there. Now it says she would have the RV again, so it doesn't really matter what kind of choice you would pick, like whether you choose to take Lily with you in episode 4 and she steals the RV from you right then, or whether you choose to leave her in the forest, she'll probably double back behind you guys, coming up to the RV, finding it abandoned, and then chasing behind you guys, seeing the direction you're going with the train. I don't know how that would have played out, but man, this would have made for a crazy season finale, just having Lily return right there and being a villain in that role. I think she made a more satisfying villain that makes sense than what we saw in with the stranger, in my opinion. Lee and his group had 40 bullets to fight the walkers in the mansion, but it was cut down to 11 in the finale. I guess they just didn't want to drag out that gunfight that long. When confronted with the stranger, Lee had an unused option to tell about Lily. If picking Lily, he revealed that she was a good woman who was a good friend until she lost her father, resulting her to kill Doug Carley due to paranoia. It'd been cool to drop that in there, you know, just telling him like this apocalypse kind of really changes people, man. I mean, who's the stranger to judge me? He's the one with a bowling bag full of his wife's severed head. Are you serious? And lastly, for episode 5, it says here, Kenny was originally set to die in this episode, but his death scene was scrapped so he could return in the second season. Now that part I added on toward the end, but as we all know, that's what happened, and Kenny got to live to fight another day. So if that was the case, Kenny was originally scheduled to die. That may be the reason why it looked like there was no exits for him. There's no way for him to survive, at least in the one where Ben is involved and he falls down there. It doesn't look like there's no way out of there from their perspective. And anyways, guys, that is everything from The Walking Dead Season 1 right there. All the deleted sequences, then all my thoughts about them that I know of so far. If you guys know of any more that I did not mention, then go ahead and feel free to put them in the comments. I will read all of that stuff because this stuff is very interesting, man. Definitely could have added a lot more. A lot of this stuff would have made season 1 just amazing, okay? No doubt about that. And yeah, thumbs up if you did appreciate this video. And stay tuned for next week. Walking Dead Wednesday coming up again for you guys. And I'm out of here, okay? Thank you guys for watching and peace out.